Hi, we call this Tall Tales and Other Stories with Brother Mike. Sometimes we call it Tell Me a Story with Brother Mike. Started out as Tell Me a Story with Brother Mike, but it ended up with Tall Tales and Other Stories with Brother Mike because Tell Me a Story was already used up. But I like Tell Me a Story better. Tell with Brother Mike. And another road story for you. I spent a lot of time on the road. Spent about 2, 3, 4 years pretty much all on the road. And of course you get a lot of road stories. I hitchhiked across the country 7 times. First time when I was 17 years old. This is kind of one of them hitchhiking stories, cross-country hitchhiking story. Started out myself personally in Costa, Mesa, California on this journey, bound for Massachusetts. And my year was probably about 1974, 75. Blazing hot summer, And I started out on my journey and, got to a certain point. I was still in California at the time, and I was waiting for a ride, kind of sitting down back, using the road sign as a backrest, and kind of half asleep with a sign, telling people where I was going. If they wanted to give me a ride, they probably going to have to wake me up, But as I was there, I felt a shadow being cast over me. And I looked up, and all I saw was a silhouette, looked like a guy. And, kind of put my hand up to block the sun, and it was a young guy. And it looked like he might have been a hitchhiker too, Not much of a hitchhiker, not as experienced of a hitchhiker as me, just some guy trying to get from point A to point B. But I think he took notice of my sign because, as I later learned, he was on his way to Erie, Pennsylvania. And I think he was just kind of looking for somebody to make his journey with. And I didn't mind having somebody to make my journey with. My resources were a little bit low at the time, and hey, anybody could have more than I had. So I was more than happy to have him with me. And we started out on our trip, together. And, hit it off pretty good. Nice enough guy. And I think he just got out of the military, And up in Washington State. And I don't know, took a detour, south somehow, and was heading to Erie, and so, we teamed up and ended up, really pretty good friends. We got near the Phoenix area, and I had been up in Minnesota for quite some time, and had a good friend up there named Bill Fearon, who had a brother. I can't remember his name right now, but I remembered that the brother lived in Phoenix, and in our journey, that was kind of like a nice place to stop, for that first day together. And, night was going to be falling. You didn't want to be caught outside at night, if you could get away with it. So I called up Bill Fearon, and at that time I didn't have any trouble making long-distance telephone calls because I was one of the many people that had Steve McQueen's credit card number, and you could make free calls on Steve McQueen, for as long as the telephone company would let you, So I got a hold of Bill, who got a hold of his brother, who gave us permission to crash there, that night, and gave me the number. Bill gave me the number. I called the guy up and gave me directions to the house, and me and my newfound friend, he was very appreciative, because he didn't know anybody, and here I was kind of shaping up my image as a king of the road, so to speak. I could do anything. I knew how to handle the road. He didn't, and And that was going to be my strong point. I was going to be kind of like his guide, in this journey. So we made it over to Bill's brother's house, and boy, there we stayed. We camped at that place for, I mean, like 2 or 3 days. And come to find out, my newfound friend, had all this money, that he had received from, being separated from the military. And I was greased. I went from like having no money to being almost like a paid guide, for this guy, on his journey to Erie and mine beyond, And I had paid for myself already by getting us a place to stay in Phoenix with a real cool guy who, did all the things that we like to do, and at that time, being part of the counterculture, one of the things that I liked to do was smoke as much weed as I possibly could, and, not to mention other unmentionable substances that would tend to, expand your consciousness, let's just say, And, well, we parked at that guy's house, and that guy had access to everything we could possibly want. I think we probably bought about 10 hits of mescaline, and ate so much of that mescaline that, we didn't sleep for 2 days, 3 days, stayed in the house, didn't know night from day, was just on a, this guy was enjoying it, because he just got out of the military, so, he's like, hey, this is fabulous, and, that's how we spent the 3 days, just like lapsing in and out of consciousness, and, finally, we got a hold of some weed, he bought like a half a pound of weed, and, for the last, like, day and a half, all we did was eat mescaline and smoke copious amounts of weed. Even our host mentioned, that he had never seen 2 guys, smoke as much as he had seen us smoke, but, the time was coming quickly, when we would have had to leave out of that place and, continue on with our journey. Couldn't stay, in a psychedelic haze in Phoenix, forever, So we figured we'd take it in stages. That evening we went over to the Greyhound bus terminal, ventured outside, under the cover of darkness, and made our way over to the Greyhound bus terminal, where we discovered the arcade with the pinball machines in there, and I remember I got on one of these pinball machines, and please don't ask me how I did it or anything like that, but I turned into a pinball wizard, and I couldn't miss. I didn't even have to look, and I was hit, my paddles were hitting the ball, and, soon I had a crowd of people standing behind me, and, I'm like turned around having a conversation with these people and just instinctively hitting these paddles. I'm hitting the ball, I'm racking up the points, and, people are like, wow, this guy is fabulous. And I have no background in terms of being that good at pinball. It was just something that happened. I don't know if it was all the psychedelics we had done for 3 days, or instant awareness, or, total acuity of eye-hand movement. I don't know what it was, but I just rocked it, and, we had to retire back to the house, so, we go back to the house, and, we start packing and, getting ready to make our move, and, got a good night's sleep, got up, well, I couldn't say good night's sleep, but, we got up early the next morning. It had to be about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and we head on out, walking down the road, trying to find the best way to get onto the highway, for our journey east, and as we were walking along, I guess we were very fatigued, because we, came to this, like, eatery, it was like one of these little hamburger joints, with picnic tables in the lot, and, we just sat down on one of these tables, and, I guess we were so tired, we both of us fell asleep, Oh, here we are, crashed at these tables, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And, I feel this, like, nudge, I wake up, I look around me, and me and my new friend, with a half a pound of weed in his duffel bag, are surrounded by Denver, Phoenix, I should say, police, and it's like, holy mackerel, what a thing to wake up to, and, they were like, who are you guys, what are you doing here, when we told them our story, and, let me see ID, went through the whole identification process, and, and you knew what was coming, they were going to want to look in the bags, and, this is standard operating procedure, and I might have had a break because, like, the chief police officer who was doing the, probing and investigating was an African-American guy, and I kind of felt like if I played it right, I could establish a line of communication with this man, at least not be perceived as a big threat, and I think I did pretty good, because, we got to the point in the process where, he asked me to see my bag, and I opened my bag, clothes. At that time I used to draw, which I still do, I draw cartoons, but, back then I was drawing like really weird stuff, like, a grove of trees with fruit hanging from the branches and old people in the fruit, and two scientists, probing at the fruit, saying, the overripe ripened ones are only good for jams or jellies, crazy stuff, and so, he searched my bag, and when he was satisfied and done with me, he was on his way to search the other guy's bag, which would have been, a bust, a total arrest type situation, at least for him, you know what I mean? And that's when my mental acuity and my roadside instincts and survival instincts kicked in, because I had to create a diversion. That's the only thing that we had available to us, and I knew this. So just before, he verbalized that he wanted to look in the guy's bag, I says, hey, you want to see some cartoons? And he's like, sure, And so I whip out these cartoons, and he starts looking at the cartoons, the cop, and you can just see his face, like, what's this? Like, holy mackerel, and, he hands the cartoon book back to me, and then he says to me, you don't smoke any of that stuff, do you? I was like, hey, no way, you know what I mean? I never smoke any of that stuff, and, then the guy just, like, forgot about everything, he's like, boy, I envy you guys, living the life, just being able to travel anywhere, sleeping outside under the stars, and, oh boy, what an idealistic life you guys have, and how much I envy you, and all, he's on and on and on, and in the process, guy forgets to even look at the bag. Alright, we pack up, they take off. My friend, who recognized from the get-go, what I had done and was trying to do, I mean, practically, like, hugged me. He was, like, gut-hooked on me being the one that was going to get him safely to Erie, Pennsylvania, no matter what happened, And we became very good friends. He had a padlock on the bag, and, even gave me the number, to the combination to the padlock, just in case he wasn't there and I wanted to go in and get some weed. I had free access to the weed. And, it was just one of them stories where you meet a total stranger, the both of you, even keel, even Steven, nobody better than the other one, sharing different experiences and abilities, and joining them together, and creating a cohesive unit, and surviving against real all obstacles. And it was funny because I remember we got to Erie, Pennsylvania, and it was November the 11th, which was my birthday, so I was able to celebrate with him at his college, with his dorm mates, and have a great birthday to boot, and never forgot that guy, and it's just wonderful, I think, that you can meet somebody that you don't know, or you used to be able to. Nobody trusts each other anymore, to that extent, so maybe you can never duplicate anything like that. And people don't hitchhike, but back then, hey man, it was a very pleasurable experience, and one of my best memories of meeting a total stranger and having everything work out right, on a journey. So thanks for joining me, and once again, my name is Brother Mike, and this has been Tall Tales and Other Stories, or Tell Me a Story, whichever you prefer.